afternoon everyone, welcome to Elio Moon Arts. My name's Fiona and today we're going to do a bunny rabbit for Easter in alcohol inks. I'll just run down through the list of supplies that you'll need. You will need some isopropyl alcohol if that's what you prefer to use, or some blending solution. I've got a Couture Creations one, I quite like it. And I will probably use maybe both of those today. I have a list of colours here that I would like to go through. So we've got amber, watermelon, ruby, cerulean, midnight, pear, sienna and pewter. That's the list of colours that I've given myself to use. I'm not sure whether we'll use all of them or not, but I just thought if everybody's got the list, we can go from there. So basically we're just doing a big rabbit's head. We're going to do a background first. Now I have done this, I did do one lot of this and I wasn't happy with how it turned out. So this time I'm going to do it a little differently. And then we'll see how we go. So today I'm using, this is not Couture Creations paper. This is actually another synthetic paper that I get, and it's called, now what is it called off the top of my head? I can't believe I've forgotten it. But basically it's just a synthetic paper. And it's one that I buy from a lady down on the Gold Coast. And what I really like about this in particular paper is its ability to be able to lift everything back to whatever colour was underneath. Hold on a minute, I'm just going to grab a bit of paper towel. So you'll also need some paper towel. You will also need some paintbrushes. I've got a Couture Creations alcohol ink blower. I've got some little blending tips in case I need to get into some small areas. These are great. This is my little blower that I'm going to use. And I think that's about it. Oh, I've got two little ramekins that I use for my isopropyl alcohol blending solution. I've got a couple of different size brushes to use for this. And I've left the picture here, so there's so that you are able to take a photo of it, and if you want to trace it onto your piece of paper, that's fine. So I've just used just a normal HB, I think this is that's a 3B pencil that I've used because I needed it darker so that you'd be able to see it better. If you're going to draw yours out like this, I would highly recommend that you do it much, much lighter. And we'll go from there. So today we're going to start on the background first. So I think I'm going to use watermelon. And I want some of that watermelon through here, some there, and a bit down here. So I'm just putting my inks on. I'm going to put each colour on separately. I think I'm just going to grab my paintbrush, and I've got some isopropyl alcohol. I'm just going to do this bit here first. So just putting it on, so letting it bleed out a bit. Now I'm just going to grab my blower and just blow it out. A couple of other things that you may need is maybe a jewel tip marker in black. Could work out very handy. An alcohol ink marker would be really great to use in this project as well. Or perhaps, what do they call them? That's not what these ones are called. These are a micron. A micron pen would work quite well with this as well. So in this section here, I really want the brightness of this colour to sort of stay in this section just against the side of his face. So I'm not going to Might just add a little bit more of the colour into this section because I do want that to be quite bright. And one of the things with isopropyl is it will dilute the colour a little bit, and that's okay. And I'm not worried that it's going over my rabbit because we can always take that off. So this will give me a nice darker pink piece here. And the other thing to remember when you're doing these backgrounds first is that if it does go over it, depending on your paper, you can just lift it out. So I'm just going to rinse off this brush, swipe it on my thing there. Just going to move this bit out of that eye. There we go. And you'll see that I don't mind if a little bit of it stays in there, in that bottom piece there. And you'll see that will leave a little bit of a shadow, but the pencil that was there hasn't actually moved. I'm going to just use that. I'm just going to add a little bit of this, and I'm going to blow that away from the eye this time. I think that was the ruby actually that I put over the top of this, and that's okay. It's just a different red. The other one was more a pink, the watermelon. So I'm just cleaning up this little bit here, just bringing that up to that line. Because whatever goes on top of alcohol ink will push whatever's underneath it out of the way. So just a little bit of alcohol on my brush and moving it back and forwards. It'll draw that out of there. So that bit's done. Another bit over here. I'm going to make this one, I want this bit over here to be quite light. I do want it to be quite pale. So I'm just going to move that around a bit, tip it off. Okay, so there's the start of our background. I'm just going to move this, and all I'm doing is using some alcohol just to manipulate that ink and move it back towards the side of his ear for the time being, because I'm not sure how that pink will go with the rest of him at this stage. Okay, that'll do. Might just move this one here a little bit as well. Because this one up here is so much lighter, it just moves so much easier than the darker colours. So this is one of the joys of using alcohol ink, because you can manipulate it quite easily. Let's move that over there. Okay. Okay. Okay, so our next colour we're going to use, I think I'm going to use some cerulean. I want some pops of blue. And I wouldn't mind using this pear at the same time. So this pear's sort of a greeny, sort of yellow. It's quite a vibrant colour. I'm just going to pop that in there. I want to bring that right up close to his ear, so I'm just going to use my brush and just manipulate that so that it comes right up around the ear there. Just add a little bit more of that that pear in here. I'm just going to get my blower now and we're just going to blow that around. Okay, so now we're just going to turn it down into this corner here. And we're just going to mingle those a little bit together again. Just move it back that way and down a little bit. And now we've got sort of like this orangey yellow coming through there. I might add a little bit more. Oh, that's amber. Wasn't really what I was going for. It's really the pear that I wanted. A little bit more blue. Just let these two mingle a little bit. That one's now starting to take a little bit more shape. Now we'll start up in this top corner up here. I'm just going to loosen them up a little bit, see what they're going to do. You could actually do this on a bit of blending card too. It doesn't have to be on synthetic paper. So those of you who are card makers and would like to use some blending card, by all means go right ahead and you could try this on that. And you could reduce the size down to what suits what you're doing with it. So now we're going to grab this pear colour. I'm just going to bring it all up here. Just going to blow that out. And we're making this side a little lighter because that's the side that the sun's coming in on. So on your right hand side is where I've got my sun coming in on my my little bonnie. Just going to move this a little bit just to get it activated, see what it's going to do. So it's just moving it on the, because it's been allowed to dry on the paper, I just wanted to move it so that I know that, with the paintbrush, so that I know that it'll behave the way I want it to. Quite happy with that. I'm just going to take a little bit more of this watermelon. I might put a little bit of that up there while that's still wet, just to bring some of that pink back into it again. I'm thinking that I might like some pear up into this bit here too, just to lighten that off, and maybe up into here as well, just to lighten that a little bit more on that right hand side where I said the sun was going to, where I'm having my sun coming from, my light coming from. Just so that lightens that up a little bit more. Just got a little bit of watermelon, so I've got a little bit of darkness there with it, with that watermelon colour. That's better. So you can play with this background until you have it where you want your background to be. So I'm wanting this to be quite a big pop of colour. Throw some of that in there. And so now I'm just going to grab this ear and I'm just going to push some of these colours out of his ear a bit, because I really don't want that blue and yellow in his ear. Although you could have a psychedelic rabbit if that's what you decide to do. So a little bit of red over here, a little bit of the blue and yellow, or pear and cerulean over here in his ear. So I'm just going to move that out. And you'll see that as we do this, it creates a bit of a hard line up near the edge of our rabbit's ear. And that's exactly what I'm sort of wanting, because that'll hide my pencil mark that I've got as we go through this. So, because the colours that I've used on this are quite dark, I want my rabbit to be a little darker than perhaps what I might have done it in another, if I had done it another way. But here's the outline of our rabbit so far, and we've got our background in. So now, what colours am I going to use for my rabbit? Well, I'm thinking that I may have so this is pewter, so I'm thinking we're going to have a grey rabbit, and he might have patches of brown on him, so we're going to use a little bit of sienna. Let's see what this colour will give us. And as I work with this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my brush and my blower. I'm just going to work this down into our rabbit, just to see how this mix is going to look. That brings that into here, so I'm just going to leave that sitting there like that for a little bit. Hopefully that'll all dry off as it is. I'm quite happy with that effect. So I'm just going to take this around the outside of him. And I'm really just letting those colours mix and mingle together on their own. Just making sure I've got enough alcohol on there so that they can do their thing. I'm not worried at this stage if this goes over his nose and his mouth and everything. I'm quite happy for that to happen. So I might just add a little bit of alcohol here and just blend that down there. I might add a little bit more sienna on the bottom of this one. Just blend that in a bit. Yeah, that's better. So now you can see we're starting to get this mottled sort of coloured rabbit. I'm quite happy with that. And then as we go, we will tidy up the sides of our rabbit. But as you can see, I've also got quite a bit of alcohol on here, so that when I sort of start dabbing into these colours, it's going to give me quite a smooth finish as well. In some areas, I'm hoping. That's the... Let's just give him a bit of a dry off, see how we go. So this gives me a bit of a more organic-y type of shape, I suppose, for my rabbit. So now I'm going to do the same on this ear up here. So I'm just going to bring some alcohol into here. As you can see, I'm using quite a bit of alcohol. I'm not being stingy with it. I'm just bringing that all in there. It's okay if it goes into the inner part of his ear. We can fix that up later. And now we have this more organic-y type shape, which I'm quite happy about. So now I want to, now I already know that I don't really want this to come outside here, because that comes past this shape of him. So I'm just going to move that one, these ones back a little bit. but I also want it to stay in that spot. So this one, it's been pretty good. It's come right up to where I wanted it to. And we've created a bit of a hard line here. So I'm just sort of blending out a little bit. This ear's looking pretty good. This ear's looking pretty good. I'm just going to push some of that. So I'm just pushing this back where it belongs, over into his ear. There we go. Pushing it back in there, giving it a chance to dry. Just bringing that bit down into there because I don't want that to be separate. So I might have to dry that bit off. And then here I'm just pushing this back into his ear as well. So we'll end up putting a bit more colour around the outside of his ear here. Seeing as how it's come out. So this is all about gauging how much alcohol to use for this spot. I'm not too worried about the fact that this is sort of bled into the other bit there. I'm okay with that. I can manipulate it and move it back and get it to do what I want it to do afterwards as well. But I think I've tried doing it when you put the background in last, and I think this is the better. I think this gives a much more organic look, putting the background in first, and then rather than doing it the other way and putting the background in last. So I'm just turning this around just to make it a little easier. So I'm sorry if that makes you all feel a little queasy. Just that my wrist doesn't like to bend the other way too well, so I have to turn it around. Okay. So there we go, we're pushing it back out of that area. So now we'll start on this one. So I'm just going to add a little bit more alcohol, isopropyl alcohol to this one, and let's have a go at this one now. This one sort of went pretty damn good, I thought. This here, a couple of little bits that need to be pushed out, but nothing too major. Turn this one around here. So I'm just really pushing it out of the inner earpiece on the rabbit. Okay, so now I'm going to do the same on this one. I'm just going to tidy up around the outside of his ears and push everything back to where it needs to be. There we go. Slowly turning him around as we work our way back around the top of his ear. There we go. And I'm really just having my brush flat against the paper and just moving my brush backwards and forwards to get it to move to where I want it to be. It. And this one needs to come up here a little bit. That's it. Just trying to move those harsh lines out of there. Those harsh lines out of there. And that just sort of blends that back into that spot. Okay. So now we've still got a little bit of work to do on these ears. So where is the sienna? I think I'm going to use sienna over here. Need one a little bit more brown up here. So and I'm just going to use the ink itself. I want a little bit of going to paint that around there. Let's put that back in here. And just steadily working along until you've got it looking the way that you want yours to look. So I'm quite happy with that at the moment. I'm going to use a little bit more pewter. Just going to put a drop directly onto the paper. And I want this part of his ear to be a little bit grayer. Just going to move that along a little bit. Okay, so we've got a little bit down here that needs to be looked at. Just push that bit of grey back, and I've got a little bit of grey in his eyes, so I just want to move that back out of the way. So this little piece here where I've got this little line, I don't mind that. I don't want it to be stark white, but I do want it to be very light, as opposed to because of what we're going to do with his face. So he's got a darker bit under his ear, he's got a little bit of darkness under his ear, and I think that's pretty okay at this stage. So now we're going to work with our watermelon again, but this time we're going to use it quite diluted, and I'm okay with that little bit being outside the edges there. Okay, so now we're going to put in at the bottom of our ear, we're going to have a little bit of watermelon. I'm just going to bring that up a little bit into the ear, and I want a little bit up in this top corner of his ear too. And then I'm going to get a little bit of the sienna. I'm just going to put the one drop on, and I'm just going to move it over here. Because I sort of want it to get in there and sort of mingle a little bit together. And this one's a little drier, so I'm just going to bring that into here. And this is a slightly bigger area, so I might need a little bit more of the, I think it's a bit more of the watermelon in this one. Okay, so now we're going to define our rabbit a little more now. So we're just going to come in here, push this one back. So there's two ways we can do the eyes. You can grab hold of an alcohol ink marker. You can also use a micron pen, or you can use ink. The choice is yours. So I'm going to opt for ink. Just going to put a little bit on the back of this ramekin. I've just turned it upside down. Just going to put a bit of black on it. And I'm going to use one of these blending tips. I'm going to put my black onto it, let it soak that all up. And I'm just going to paint that in around this eye. And I'm wanting to do around the edges of those highlights that I've got in there. So this will start to define our rabbit a little bit better once he's got an eye. That's not cutting it for me. So what I need to do is I need to grab my midnight. I'm going to put another drop on there. Is this brush going to be okay? Okay, we're about to find out, I suppose. I've just got a little bit of alcohol on my brush and I'm just wiping some of it off. Grabbing that blending solution, grabbing that Midnight alcohol ink, which is our black. And I'm just going to do a few layers over this eye because I'm wanting this eye to be really dark, or as dark as I can possibly get it. And if I'm not happy with it after that, I will, I do have some alcohol ink markers, but I don't have any Couture Creations ones. It is something that I need to buy, but I just don't have the finances for it at the moment, so it's something I'm working towards, that and a new camera setup. Okay, so that's getting there slowly. Need a little bit of alcohol in this pot. I need some more black in on the top of the other one. So I'm sort of letting this dry a little bit. Just going to put a little drop of alcohol on there. And I'll come in with another layer of this Midnight Black. Okay, so now I'm going to start on this one. I'll just let that one dry a bit more. And the same thing with this one. I'm wanting to make it as black as I can get it. I am finding it much easier to use a brush to do this rather than the... those tips are good. I think it's just what you get used to after time. The tips are good for really small areas, but this is quite a large area for his eye, so I'm going to just put a bit too much alcohol in there then. Did you see that? How it all just spread all of a sudden. Just moving that around further. Just rounding that eye off. Okay, picking up some more of that black. I think I'm going to go and grab my one of my alcohol ink markers. See if that will make it look a bit better. Just not quite happy with the depth of colour that I'm getting with that at the moment. So let's take our black. And I'm going to use my chisel point to start off with, so I can get a nice fine edge. So I'll really shape those eyes. That's better. So by doing that and we get that depth of black that we need, it'll actually make the highlights in his eyes just pop out a little bit, which is what I'm after. And you get a much smoother application when you use a one of these pens. You could also use Sharpies for this as well. Okay, so I'm quite happy with his eyes now and how they have turned out. But the white around his eyes is a little too white for my liking. Where did I put my paintbrush? Here it is. Is that the one or is it this one? I might try this one. Okay, so I've just got my little pot with some isopropyl alcohol in it. I'm just going to blend some of this colour. Going to blend. I just want it really light, so I'm just taking some of the colour from beside where his eye is and just blending some of that into that whiteness that I've got there, just so that it's not quite as stark. And I'm trying not to hit the black that we used for his eye, because I really don't want that to run. So I'm just grabbing some of this colour that he's got around here. I'm just going to bring that out here, just around the base. And that just brings that all together now. A little bit there. So our next step will be, and I think I'm going to do the same with this, I'm going to grab that same marker. This time I'm going to grab the bullet tip, and I'm just going to mark in his cute little nose. Here we go. Now, if you're happy with yours like that, that's fabulous. But you may also want to take it another step further, and I'm going to show you on this one. This is an 08 micron pen. So you can also come in and you can define your lines a little more if that's what you would like, if that's the style of painting that you like. It's not normally what I would do, but that's okay. I'm just going to show you that you could do it this way as well. And that'll just help to define his shape a little better. So I'll do this one inside his ear as well. Around there. So it really is a personal choice. And so when I'm doing this, I've got my little finger held down onto the paper, and I'm just going to mark this line around here for his face. I don't want it all the way around, but just around. I think that's enough for me, just to define him a little bit. So another thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to pull some like whiskers out from around his ears. I'm just really just flicking it, maybe a few up through the top here. And I want some that are going to come off, some little lashes that are going to come off the bottom of his eye here. I might do a couple off the top as well, on the top of this one. Let's give him some little whiskers. So I'm not doing these straight out, I'm sort of doing them in a bit of an arc. Okay, and there is our cute little bunny. I do think that eye needs that mark there. This one needs this mark here. Just helps to define the shape of him a bit better. There we go. So now we have our cute little bunny. probably play around with this one for a little while longer. Yep, but that's what I have for you today. I hope you've enjoyed this. Happy Easter to everybody, because I presume this will come out around Easter time. I hope you really enjoy doing this. I'm sure your kids would love to have a bit of fun playing with some alcoholics and doing this. Thank you very much for watching my channel. For all of those of you who have joined recently, thank you very much for your support. I really appreciate it. And to help my channel, if you wouldn't mind leaving a comment or a thumbs up would be great. Share it on your social media pages. That would be awesome. I'd really appreciate it. Okay, everybody, have a great day. Bye.